Shadows of Doubt is the most innovative game I played this next fest. When you first start learning about it, it doesn't seem too out of the ordinary, but with each new keyword, each new genre tag, each new layered description of what this game actually is, your mind is blown a little bit more. Shadows of Doubt is a detective game. It's a detective game where the world and everything in it is procedurally generated. It's also an immersive sim. Given that, it's also, predictably, a stealth game, of sorts. Above all else, it's an incredible sandbox of mechanics that you can just do whatever you want in. It's one of these games that's immersive simply because of how much it lets you do, how freely it lets you do it, and how it assigns logical consequences to your normal gameplay actions. You start out by making your character, naming yourself, and deciding what gender you want to be. I played the introductory case, The Dead of Night, to acquaint myself with the way this game works, and even during this hour-long tutorial as you're learning what to do, there is a stunning amount of freedom in your potential approaches to solving this introductory murder mystery and bringing the killer to justice. The world of Shadows of Doubt is a noir corporate dystopia where a company is the first non-human entity to be named president, and it rules society via enforcers, which are a privatized police force it owns. Different cities are islands isolated away from others due to rising water levels around the planet, and the lowly workers milling about dream of escaping to something called the Fields, a retirement district that few people have even seen. You can only reach them if your social credit score is high enough, which is kind of like this game's version of a leveling system. In this world, unrest, corruption, and societal tension are quite high, so there's a lot of criminality and murder, especially considering enforcers are really only loyal to their corporation. Those enforcers themselves then tend to outsource their police work to citizens from time to time. This is the world a private investigator finds themselves in, and you step into the shoes of this person. What's crazy to me about Shadows of Doubt is that the entire world is fully seeded and simulated. Every time you launch a new random world, every NPC has their own job and schedules, their own place they live, their own connections to other people which simulate and resolve with or without you. A lot of games do this nowadays as just a cool throwaway thing or a bit of flavor, but in Shadows of Doubt what makes it different is that this society simulation literally is the gameplay. Because as a detective, you are very deeply concerned with the connections between people, places, objects, and events. You even have your own little evidence board that you can indulge your paranoia in as you pin different clues together and link them with red string to try to figure out who killed who and where and when. Being set in a sci-fi dystopia, you can also implant sync discs into yourself at a clinic, which are genetic augmentations that give you bonuses to stealth, hacking, and so on, so there's a little bit of Deus Ex in here. This game is truly gloomy and atmospheric in a way that really touches something far beneath my surface, close to the core of me. I love the atmosphere of games like Thief, Dishonored, the Deus Ex games, Vampire Bloodlines. The creeping sense that you are somewhere you are not supposed to be. The quiet rain outside the window of a dark apartment you broke into on a neon-lit night, as you read secret files on someone's computer which could get you killed, or worse, if you don't get out of there before powerful people realize what you've done. It's a special kind of feeling that isn't even just this feeling, it's many feelings which I can't properly describe. In terms of looks, Shadows of Doubt uses a voxel visual style to create its world out of. The most famous example of a game that does the same would probably be Minecraft, although to me this game veers closer atmospherically at times to something like It's Winter, which isn't really even a game so much as it is an interactive art piece. But just know that this game is very, very cool, and from what it seems like right now, it's achieving what it's going for. I didn't really know what I was in for, and throughout there were moments where the game's mechanics were a little bit overwhelming mentally, just because of how free you are to do anything you want at any time, so there's a wider possibility space to keep in your head, and therefore more you have to ignore in order to focus in on your short-term goals. Honestly, I don't even want to talk about this tutorial because it's something that everyone should play for themselves and really experience. Just know that this game is something truly special and something to keep an eye on. It's very player directed, it's very player paced. You kind of get to pursue your own leads however you want, and although it has guidance that you can follow if you wish to, there's also a lot of different things you can do that go off the beaten path and that go off of the game's tutorialization and still end up finishing its intro case anyway, which to me was very cool. This game fucking slaps. It's so fucking good. I had to say this because I said it out loud on a voice call, and my buddy Ezio told me that if I didn't say those words verbatim, he'd be very disappointed in me. Gestalt is the game in this video I've spent the longest time following. I've watched its development since it was announced and wanted to play it for longer than I can remember. Also, I'm pronouncing its name with the English pronunciation. Alethea, the red-headed player character, is a mercenary wielding blade and gun in a dystopian steampunk society with many buried secrets related to the ruins of civilizations and tech left behind from ancient times. The game is already pointing toward having some intriguing mysteries to uncover, with Alethea seeing strange visions of the past as this ancient technology calls to her and tries to tell her things that she can only process in blurred fragments. There's some amount of emphasis on dialogue and visual novel style back and forth cutscenes between characters quite often, which I'm looking forward to since I'm interested in the world of this game and what apocalyptic calamity occurred all those eons ago. Your blade is your main damage, while your bullets are used to add extra functions to combat and respond to specific situations. Combat in this game is agile and responsive, but intentional. Lately, I like the word intentional a lot more than weighty, since weighty is in my experience most often used to refer to games that, to me, lean toward feeling rather sluggish. It's just a red flag for me when I hear someone use the word weighty to refer to a game's feel or combat. Every action you do is fairly committal, and everything except basic attacking and walking costs a resource, but you do feel very agile. You can't dodge without stamina, and you can't fire your gun without ammo. Attacking is free, but enemies don't get locked into hit stun indefinitely, so you need to be ready to iframe through their retaliation with your forward roll or backdash. The pistol fires both physical bullets that deal health damage and electric bullets that damage the enemy's stance gauge. Breaking an enemy's stance with repeated attacks from your sword and your gun's special ammo leaves them temporarily vulnerable for some free combo aggression. Even this early on in the 2023 demo build, we get a taste of RPG progression and the kinds of buffs we can expect. You get ability points both by leveling via killing enemies, which fills up your XP bar, or by interacting and shooting various environmental objects like these containers that give you an ability point when you break them. You can use these ability points to give yourself stat boost to your health, sword, or gun, or more excitingly, extend your melee combos or unlock entirely new moves to help you fight in different ways, like a melee gap closer or an attack that lunges forward out of your backdash for a quick poke at an enemy that you just backed away from. There's a simple stat sheet too, simple equipment that gives you damage resistance or increases how much currency enemies drop on death, potions that buff you, along with normal health potions that let you recover from damage, things like that. When I recorded my known damage run of the demo's boss fight, I consumed an Eagle Eye potion, which increased my firearm damage for 2 minutes, letting me stance break the boss faster as long as I remembered to build ammo charge by attacking with my sword. You know, staying on top of shooting the boss with electric bullets whenever I had one available, and then building one up by hitting with my sword as much as possible. Mind you, all of this was happening while I had a potion rolling, so, you know, it encourages you to play aggressively and to get maximum value out of your timers that you have running. You can play pretty aggressively in this game if you practice, which is fun. Potions are also a commitment with an inject animation into Alethea's thigh that is very reminiscent of Bloodborne. That means you can pick the wrong time to use one and get punished for it by an enemy attack. The only thing I really have an issue with is Alethea's forward dodge and back dodge, both of which are your only real defensive options for now. They're sometimes unreliable. You can seemingly get stuck on flat terrain, even against an enemy that isn't designed to prevent a roll. I'm not talking about the clockworks with the flat shields, those are specifically intended to stop you rolling through them. I mean situations like this where I roll along the ground and Alethea gets stuck doing the animation on the spot instead of smoothly rolling through behind the enemy's back. This can lead to moments of the player taking damage even though they played correctly, and I'm always encouraging developers to do their best fixing these kinds of issues, since this game's combat is otherwise something you can play perfectly. It's very masterable. Every enemy has readable patterns and behaviors that you can counter without ever being hit once you learn how to fight them. That feels amazing, and I really hope Gestalt takes care to polish the player's dodge to the point where you can always trust it. It also has a very pretty visual and animation style that I immediately fell in love with, and the music is fun to listen to so far too. Overall, I'm looking forward to this game. It's looking like a day one for me. When Demon Hunter sisters Shinobu and Maya are finally on their way to a normal day of school, they get transported to the demon world and have to slay their way up a castle inhabited by all kinds of enemies that look and fight in much the same way you'd expect Castlevania foes to. Don't be fooled by appearances and assumptions though, this game is very Castlevania, not at all Metroidvania. There's no real meaningful backtracking, no loot, no XP, and it's by and large a fairly linear 2D action platformer with some branching paths to keep replays fresh. Any abilities you get are unlocked as a result of beating bosses. the two included in the demo being a huge vampire bat capable of splitting into a swarm of bats, and a demonic rocker bunny girl who fights you by blasting waves of music out of her guitar and slamming the ground hard enough that chandeliers and flooring start flying at you. This game also has a gorgeous 2D pixel style, which I enjoyed from Gestalt as well, but its main idea here is that you swap between both of the sisters. Shinobu has more health, and is a long-range fighter with her SMG, which has to be reloaded when you get low on ammo displayed under your health. She's the safer character. Maya, meanwhile, is very fragile, but deals devastating amounts of damage in melee range with her origami slashes. She's a riskier character. Each sister is good in different situations, and when you cap out the pride meter under their health by collecting enemy drops or just waiting, you can unleash their ultimate, which is a massive bullet that they fire together, usually clearing out everything on the screen. The thing is, each sister can be downed independently of the other, and when that happens, you have to journey back through the castle to rescue her with some comically fast-paced CPR. Until you do, you don't have access to that girl's combat style or your ultimate, since that requires both sisters standing side by side to execute. It's a pretty challenging game. You have to proceed carefully and respect the enemies in front of you or you will die, and dying here can be an excruciatingly drawn out process because once you lose one sister, you lose half of your moveset until you revive her. It plays well enough that it always feels fair, with the exception of one or two tricks the game pulls on you to catch you off guard with certain traps or enemy spawns, but I even found those more amusing than frustrating. It's also got a casual difficulty setting that makes the game a lot more forgiving if you want that. Afterimage has a calming hand-drawn aesthetic. You play as a girl named Renee, accompanied by a little spirit, and she explores the land trying to purify or release the souls of wanderers who, to my understanding, are kind of like corrupted life forms. The entire game, despite the occasional moments of difficulty, is quite relaxing and soothing. Both the art style and the music contribute greatly to that atmosphere. As you play, you can unlock abilities called Afterimages, the main one featured here being a dash that lets you both dodge enemy attacks on the ground, as well as extend your jump distance in the air, helping you out with platforming and enabling access to areas previously unreachable. Classic stuff and stuff I really like. Attacks feel pretty good, and you can equip a variety of weapons. The ones I found in the demo were swords, scythes, and greatswords. I know there's also magic, but I didn't play far enough to find any of that. There are also equipable armors and accessories, along with a talent tree that lets you improve various aspects of Renee's abilities. Get far enough and you can start to unlock new moves for different weapons she can equip too, not just stats, which is again something that's always great to see. One cool thing about this game is that most physical ranged attacks, provided that what the enemy threw at you is small enough, can be deflected right back at them with a well-timed sword slash. So you can return to sender arrows and many other kinds of projectiles just by hitting them with a basic attack, which feels really cool. Slashing stuff out of the air is always a win in action games, especially ones like these that lean on fluid combat and graceful Eastern aesthetics. The game world here is one that I immediately feel compelled to unfog and explore all of, poking into every part of it, which is really one of my favorite things about the genre. I've always loved unfogging everything and seeing that completion percent tick higher and higher every time I open my map screen, and Afterimage does a great job of making that satisfying, due in no small part to how pretty its world is to look at. Dungeon Drafters is the last game I was able to meaningfully try out, and I don't have that much footage of it. I can say though that it is very good and something I'll probably play a lot of when it releases because it seems like one of those games that's fun to just load up and play. Being a mystery dungeon game, you move on a grid of squares, one directional input at a time, and you move into enemies or objects to attack them. Each character has an amount of action points or AP that they can use to both move and attack per turn. When you use all your AP, it's the enemy's turn, and when all enemies use their AP, it's back to your turn. So what can you do with AP other than moving and attacking? You can cast your cards, which you randomly draw from a deck that I believe you'll be able to build yourself more thoroughly in the final game. You do get card packs as drops while you explore various rooms and dungeons, so this is both a turn-based combat grid RPG as well as a card battler, in the sense that your special abilities have to be drawn and then cast at the right times. There are several character classes you can play, all of whom have differently themed decks. I tried out both the black-haired aggressive melee brawler as well as the silver-haired Kitsune Shinobi. She seems to be the resident rogue unit of this game. Shinobi is very fun to play here. She gets lots of movement related cards, lots of manipulation as well, being able to pull enemies toward her or herself toward enemies using various grappling hooks, and these cards can sometimes double as a simple ranged attack, provided the initial tick of damage the hook deals when it hits an enemy is enough to kill them. Very handy against bomb beetles who like to explode on you if you kill them in melee range. Just hit them from far away and stay safe, or teleport past them, and hear them explode harmlessly far behind you. When you get used to playing a particular deck, you can really style on enemies, fighting quickly and fluidly without taking too much time to think, since from what I experienced, Dungeon Drafters gives you the information you need to stay away from damage and clean up encounters with whatever cards you happen to draw. If every character's cards contribute to playstyles as unique and impactful as Brawler and Shinobi's were in the time I tried them, then I think this game is going to have a character class for just about anyone who enjoys turn-based combat or deck builders. This has got the makings of a quality game, and much like the others, it's one I'm looking forward to playing more of when it releases.